Culture. Voluntarily retired from the university in 2007 at his 50th birthday. Here in Nigeria, we retire at the 70th birthday. So he retired very early. Maybe that's why you are still relevant all over the place. So he has been advising a group of farmers, cooperatives, about 200 plus. In India, he's been very relevant. Not only in India, he will tell us more because it's a good number of the, sorry, a good portion of the presentation is going to be on his activities all over the world. So I would not want to preempt what he has to say. I will stop here and ask Mr. President of MHS, Professor Adeyewa, to say a few words, maybe in 2 minutes, and then we'll hand over to him. Professor Adeyewa.
Thank you very much, the chairman, the webinar committee, for another dynamic outreach today. This is actually our fifth outreach, our webinar, and I'm glad that our people are joining, and it's a good opportunity. I want us to recall that the first webinar was actually on precipitation. It was delivered by Professor Jimmy Adegoke, our friend in the US, now retired, and it was on the extreme precipitation dynamics and impact of climate change in the coastal areas of West Africa. That was our first one, meeting one. The second one was applications of meteorology in international aviation, and that was delivered by Mr. Ejere, an expert in aviation meteorology, in fact, a consultant. And the third one was on applications of satellite meteorology, and that webinar was delivered by Dr. R.C. Bhatia from India. So I'm so happy today that Dr. Jagtap is in India. R.C. Bhatia delivered the lecture from India. And when it comes to the meteorological applications of satellites, he has been there even at the center, and is still there now, advising the Indian government and so on. You know, India is very strong in meteorology in terms of the usage of this in agriculture, in everything, in aviation and so on. So we had that as our third seminar. The first one took place late last year in October, if you remember. It was on hydroclimatology of floods in Nigeria. And of course, the implications of management and strategies and so on was delivered by our own Professor Temi Ologun-Orisha, the Vice Chancellor of OAU Tech, that's Luteman State University, Ondo State University. And that was wonderful. That was a prelude, actually, to our 34th AGM and annual conference. So I want to thank you. Now we are having another one, the fifth one, which is on agricultural meteorology. And our guest lecturer is going to tell us about his 25 quarter of a decade experiences in Nigeria and all over the world. And he's talking about farmer focus. I'm sure Professor Spenka Jatka will do a good job because he has all the experience in Nigeria. He has just told us that he loves Nigeria and that he has benefited a lot from Nigeria. And he was also the director of IITA and, of course, the president of MHS in the past. So today is a wonderful thing. I want us to relax and listen. And the next lecture, we hopefully would think it will be in synoptic meteorology. Later on, we have one also in forecasting or in numerical weather forecasting. So please, thank you very much and have a wonderful time. At the end, we'll wrap it up and I'll make a few announcements. Thank you. I want to thank in particular the coordinator of this webinar, Professor Emmanuel C. Okogwe. He has done a wonderful job with his team. So thank you so much, sir. Over to you, and God bless you all.
So without wasting time, I want to ask Professor Jacktab to start the presentation. I don't know what you want to share your slide from there. It might be easier for you.
Yeah, let me see if the technology is working.
Just what we did yesterday on the dry run.
Okay, now I'm.
You will see share on that.
Are you able to see it?
No, yet, not yet.
Not
click
yet.
on share, then click on the
Wait.
on
Let's
on
see.
the documents.
Let's see where is it? Where it got? Okay.
Then,
Share screen.
yeah, exactly. Click on it, then click
Yeah.
on the listeners on your desktop on the document, the slides. itself.
Okay. Now let's see here. Are you able to see it now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see what happens here.
You have not clicked on the
Say it again.
button, the green box that has arrow, share. Click on it, then click on your document on the desktop, and then you are in business.
Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now good. Now let me open the presentation.
Good.
Is it visible
Then,
now?
right. Then click on the shots. Okay. That's all right.
Okay. All right. Should I start?
Exactly, sir.
Okay. So thanks for my all old friends from Nigeria, and this is a great pleasure to have this opportunity to share this presentation and my work in Nigeria. I'm going to focus mostly in Nigeria because otherwise that will become too much for a presentation. And my goal in this presentation is to tell you a little bit about how as a young student in 70s I used to dream about working at IITA when I was doing my undergraduate in engineering. And so the little bit outline that I would like to start is that I started to visit this world in 1957, and the first about 12 years was really a lot of struggle through life. First, I was on the farm, and I was not going anywhere. Then I put a condition to my father that he must take me to Mumbai then, so that I could study. So which happened, and then there was another landmark, 1974. Is when I wanted to choose a professional career. In India, most young boys want to become administrators, what we call the Indian Administrative Service. It's a very lot of responsibilities, lot of decision making, and everything that goes along with it. The second career choice was to become an army officer, and the third choice was to become a professional engineer, and I chose this career path of professional engineer from 1975 to 1980. But before that, the entire year of from June of 1974 to June of 1975, I did what some of you may know, what Mahatma Gandhi did when he returned to India from South Africa and Europe. He walked all over India to understand what were India's problems. And I'm a firm believer in him. So when I was confused what life career I should choose, so I did exactly the same thing. Whole of June 74 to June 75, I just took a backpack and walked all over India and asked people, what do they think I should be? And that year, people told me that I should become an agricultural engineer. And that agricultural engineer, I should become from one of the most respectable organization in the country called IIT, Indian Institute of Technology. Now, I want to just point to you, see the similarity between IIT, where I got my first degree in agricultural engineering, and IITA, where I worked till 1998. But my interest in working at IITA started to develop in 1977 when I had visited ICRISAT in India. And I said, well, I mean, these are the organizations which are solving world's food problem, and I must also be a part of the solution.
Yes, blue one.
So that became, is everything okay? Are you all able to hear me?
Everything is okay. Please go ahead.
Very good.
Okay. So so as I so my dream of working at IITA started in 1977. Then I started to visiting ICRISAT in India very frequently, and starting to understand what qualification would I need if I would want to work at such an institutions which are globally respected. And of course, the first thing was that I needed a PhD, and that's what prompted me to go to United States and get my doctorate. And that going to United States helped me in more than many different ways. And and for example, one of the things that after doing my undergraduate at IIT Kharagpur, I dedicated my time there also in solving farmers' problem. And from very beginning in my life, I wanted to be of help to people rather than becoming an aristocrat where I could join civil service or become a military officer. And so the experiences during my undergraduate at ICRISAT told me the kind of skills I must have to be able to work at an institute like IITA. And the things that I must have a very strong background in mathematics. And so during my master's, I focused entirely on numerical analysis. So I have minor PhD in mathematics. And then for my PhD, my focus became on the global climate change. And because I was always constantly thinking about IITA's mandate, the region that IITA was working, and I wanted to develop my career along those ways, so it would become eventually possible for me to go and work at IITA. And I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate about the people who helped. I think my slide messed up. Okay, but I was very fortunate during my PhD uh, to have an mentoring by a number of people. I'm sure you do recognize the name of Monteith, the penman Monteith.
Yes.
So Dr. Monteith was one of my advisors during my PhD. I had three Nobel laureates: MS Swaminathan of India, Norman Borlaug of United States, another two very famous world scientists, Professor Henry Nix of Australia and C.T. Dewitt of Netherlands. Those of who are in this decision support systems or the crop models, these two people, Professor Henry Nix and C.T. Dewitt, are called the father of that field in the world. Another great two people that were very instrumental in shaping my life and my career was Goro Yuhara, a Japanese, one of the very famous soil scientists, and Tony Hunt, a Canadian crop breeder. And all these people really helped me think through and advise me what kind of skill set I need to develop if I want to work at organizations like IITA. At IITA, I had two very good people. Dunstan Spencer, he's from Sierra Leone, and he is one of the famous economists who has helped this world develop Vision 2020, World Bank, and so many global organizations. And Dr. Ken Fisher, who was an Australian, an extremely well published physiologist. And I mean, these were the people, but I owe enormously to my staff and students at IITA. You know, because of their help, I was able to have 160 plus refereed journal papers in my academic career. And I must say this, that I'm routinely touch with my staff and students in Africa, as well as many of my collaborators throughout sub-Saharan Africa. I had experienced lot of good and bad things in Africa, but I only want to talk about the good things. And even those bad things really turn out to be a good thing. Many of you do not know this, but I have been kidnapped about 3 times during my travel through West Africa. And my kidnappers are now my best friends. because I understood their rationale for kidnapping, and when I offered them to help, they appreciated what I'm bringing to the table. So I have, I have never regretted anything that I have experienced in Africa, because everything has contributed me a lot. And it's because of some of these experiences. I don't know if I should say this or no, but there were two incidences during my stay at IITA that the airport manager had stopped the aircraft on the runway so I could get in. I mean, this is not power. This is just a goodwill that the Africans expressed towards me. So one of the contribution that I spent a lot of my student life in USA was to develop this decision support system, because I knew that compared to India, Africa is several times bigger, and its population is also several times bigger. And if we want to find practical solution to the farmers of Africa, we must have a type of decision support systems, what today people are calling artificial intelligence, that can combine various aspects of soils, climate data, management practices, economics, socio-economic conditions, plant breeding, and put it all together into solutions that can be tailored to solve every country's, every region's problem in Africa. And this is why, even before coming to work in Africa, I had spent quite a bit time developing these decision support systems, and this map shows to you that the work that I had done during my PhD was being spread across 187 countries. And these decision support systems focused or solved the problems of 42 crops that are grown in different parts of the world. I'm very happy to see that Dr. Anuforum is also one of the participants at today's presentation. But some of these decision support tools is what I had used to develop the seasonal rainfall prediction systems that was being used by NIMET, while Dr. Anuforum was the DG of NIMET. So as I said to you, this was my dream when I was at IIT in India in 1977, and to go and work for IITA in West Africa, which I did it from 1989 to 98. And at IITA, first I was hired as an agroclimatologist. And then I realized that the agroclimatology is a very limited focus. So they made me agroecologist. And we went through a number of transitions like this to make the work targeted and to solve the problems. Now, the interesting thing of coming to Nigeria and joining IITA was when I arrived in Lagos. As I was coming out of the airport, in front of me there was a sign of NMS holding a conference in Oshodi. And I knew the importance of weather data in whatever the work I wanted to do in at IITA in Africa. The weather data was absolutely essential and important part of anything that I would plan. So instead of going to IITA, which I was supposed to do, I stayed back in Lagos. I attended NMS meeting for 2 days. That's where I met Professor Stichter, Mr. Enodu, Mr. Aloze, Mrs. Ukeje, and so many other people. I mean, I'm sure I'm bound to forget somebody, so I'm not even going to try that. But forgive me for that. And the third day, when I was arrived at IITA, IITA Director General told me that we are having an IITA annual review, and you are going to be the first speaker in that annual review, and you're going to present your vision for future IITA. And since I had no fear, I was not prepared. I was absolutely confident about what I was thinking. I made the presentation, and that presentation was again attended by several Nobel laureates. And believe it or not, maybe because I was so young at that time, I was barely 32 years old, fresh from the university. So the panel really liked it. And then they asked our program director, Professor Dr. Dunstan Spencer, and they asked him, how long Dr. Jagtap has been working at IITA? And when Dunstan Spencer told them, just about 1 hour, everybody laughed. Everybody laughed, and they said that this is why he's so bold, and he's not afraid of making mistakes, but he want to definitely bring changes to this organization and to this continent, and we recommend that the management support him wholeheartedly. Whatever he wants, you must provide for that. So that was my first welcome at IITA, and IITA always supported me in everything I wanted. No matter what I wanted, IITA stood behind me, gave me every possible support. I had no staff at IITA when I arrived there, but soon I hired so many wonderful people on my team and my students, and it's really them I owe all my successes while at IITA, and after IITA is the foundation I got at IITA is really has helped me to climb many mountains in my life. So again, for those who do not know anything about IITA, IITA works across agroecological zones in sub-Saharan Africa. with resource management and to ensure people's food security. And so they need to do research in all this orange, light, yellow, orange, and the red. All these agroecological zones is where IITA needs to work. And if we want to work in this environment, weather data becomes the most important resources. So soon after joining IITA, I put so many people, which to send them to Lagos to take the metadata from those books, enter them, and we did a lot of quality control on that data. We found that many of the data had a number of issues. Often the years were repeated. Often the max temperature was much less than minimum temperature, and rainfall data was there. Plenty of data was there, but there was no radiation data. And and there was one Professor Coué at Port Harcourt, I believe. I hope he's listening to my talk today. So I convinced Professor Coué to take up a study to find an alternate method to estimate solar radiation. And along with that, then there was a Theodore Cheneke, who did his PhD at the University of Ibadan in physics. And I convinced him also to work on the radiation. Because if we wanted to estimate the food production, if we wanted to develop alternate strategies of food production, then we needed the radiation, because that is the food basket for the crops. And these two gentlemen did initially the groundbreaking work, which allowed me and my staff and many of my colleagues to build the decision support systems. Then we changed our focus to rainfall. You might know this thing, IITA is a crop breeding institute. We develop new varieties that suit to different countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And to develop a variety like this, we need about 10 to 12 years of time. So if I start to develop a variety in 2025, as a breeder, I'll be ready in 2037. So I must know what will be the rainfall like, what will be the temperature like in 2037, not in 2025. So we needed to project what kind of environment these crops will be growing. And so we focused on studies of rainfall that not only helped us characterize different locations, different agroecological zones, and also determine where will be the new ISO heights of rainfall will be 12 years from now. And what we did in Nigeria, we convinced all our colleagues in other different countries, because IITA didn't only work in Nigeria, but worked in all the countries of sub-Saharan Africa. So with the help of my colleagues in other countries, we calculated where will be our rainfall ISO heights be 10 to 12 years from today. Only then we could put our crop varieties in those countries. then we not only wanted the rainfall, but we wanted the soil type, what type of soils are there, what type of roads are there, so that if farmers produce the crops, they can be taken to markets. So we started to develop a database of 10 kilometer by 10 kilometer grid. And I had one of my very good friend, Mike Hutchinson, from Australian National University. Is a great mathematician. Mike Hutchinson. He's old now. And Mike Hutchinson was known to be able to develop climate surfaces, whether it's minimum temperature, maximum temperature, rainfall, and so on and so forth, using what is called smoothing spline techniques. And since I knew about the smoothing spline techniques and I knew the strength of that approach, we hired Mike Hutchinson to come and work with me for 2 years and develop these climate surfaces over entire Africa. And when we had this project almost complete, I invited all the national directors of agriculture to Ibadan for a 1 week meeting with me. And I showed them this 10 by 10 kilometer database, and I asked them, for your location, where you live, where your research station is, use my technique here. And sorry, my slides are a little bit, but this technique called, this tool called resource information system. And I asked them to go to your location, or type is longitude and latitude, and I will give you monthly temperature, monthly rainfall, monthly evapotranspiration, because I had these models developed by Professor Coué and Theodore Cheneke now. So we could tell them evapotranspiration and everything. And along with them, exception of Nigeria, I also brought their meteorological directors. And they showed me your estimates are very close to what we know. And that's using their own data and using my generated data. So that was a validation of Mike Hutchinson's spline smoothing technique, that technique was indeed working. We also mounted a study with FAO, normalized NDVI, and India had some global stationary satellites off the coast of Sierra Leone. And we used to download their estimates of rainfall using this technique called cold cloud temperatures. And amazingly enough, for almost, if you take the span of minimum to maximum rainfall, up to 85% of rainfall, the CCD estimated rainfall was almost the same. It created some problems at a very high rainfall. But for agriculture, I was very happy with that I was accurate up to 85%. And on that, I want to share a very interesting experience or incidents in my life when I had just come to IITA. I was visited by Norman Borlaug and a fellow called Hugh Bunting, a South African. So they asked me, in all these estimations that you do, the decisions you make, how much accuracy you are looking for. And as a young PhD, I told them, of course, I'm very upset if my accuracy goes more, my errors goes more than 10%. They both started to laugh. They called my director general, they called my director of research, Ken Fisher, and in front of both of them, they told both of them that if Dr. Jagtap can give you error less than 50%, he is doing phenomenally great job. So don't question anything to him. That was an eye opener for me. That look at the farmers, the way they live their life. Their life is even more than 50% uncertain. Why should we researcher worry about the T test and F test and so on and so forth? You give me a result that my farmer is happy with me, I'm happy with my result. So that's the mentality I developed, following my this advice that was given to me by my Nobel laureates mentors. Now, as you know, we did a lot of evapotranspiration studies. We had installed weighing lysimeters at IITA. One of my colleague, many of you may know her, Monica Idinova. She did her PhD on that topic, and today she is working as an international scientist with one of the international centers. You know, I used to ask her to publish her result, but she wanted to get more and more and more. But then I got a letter once from her, a very heartwarming letter, and she wrote in that letter that if you did not get me to publish my result, today I would not be working at an international center. Compared to all the other candidates, I was the one who had the highest number of publications from my PhD, whereas other competitors there were saying, "Oh, we're going to publish it," but when? Nobody knew the answer. So that's I guess I hope I'm trying to convey that message to the students who may be listening to me, that focus on your impact on people. Of course, you must make sure your results, your procedure is right, but at the end of the day, are your results helping other people? That is the most important thing. Along with this 10-kilometer databases, we also employed remote sensing. We collected land quality, land assessment, all sorts of data, using the spot images, which was about 30 meters, 0.36 meter, which turns out to be about approximately 30 meter. And using that remotely sensed data, we did a ground truthing from all the way from Zaire to Senegal, and we checked and the status of the valley bottoms in Africa, and then we got the World Bank to put enormous amount of funds to develop these valleys for rice production. Another of my interesting contribution when I was in IITA was this activity that was given to me by World Bank and the British government. they wanted to know how many cattle are there in Nigeria. Now, how do we count them? So we had a very smart and experienced pilot who now works. I don't know for which airline, but when I left in IITA in '98, he was working for British Airways. So I asked Bob, can we make hole at the bottom of one of our aircraft? IIT had two aircrafts. One was two-seater and other was six-seater. So I asked Bob, can we make a hole at the bottom of the aircraft? He says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to put a camera there and then we would fly across Nigeria east and west. And then we will analyze those digital imagery because they were black and white. So all the white dots will be cattle. And if there's no white dot, God knows what that is. And I knew that was not the right way to do it because it was not accurate. But in 6 months' time, I had to give the data. And we did some ground truthing after taking these images and made some calibrations also. But this has then become a major project around the world in terms of resolving the conflicts between Fulanis and the Nigerian farmers. See, Nigeria gave me opportunities which I would have never got. Can anybody imagine you counting livestock and that too making a hole at the bottom of the aircraft, putting a camera there and counting the black white dots? But nowhere else I could have done those things except at IITA. This is why I said at the beginning of my talk that IITA made me what I am today. Is the experiences and the studies that I did it in Nigeria has made me what I am today. And these are the research and the activities I did has given me 160 plus refereed journal publications. So I'm really grateful for all of these things. Now I left IITA in 1998, but I just wasn't happy in the US. I was working on global climate change. I was working on rainfall forecasting, global and regional climate models. Those of who know Florida State University, Professor Krishnan, I mean, he was one of my mentors on this project. And then I requested the university that you only employ me for 50% of my time. Let me go back to Africa. I will earn the project funding for that, and I will continue to work in Africa for these things. And I chose Ghana and Nigeria for these activities. And we with our colleagues in both of these countries, this is when I met a lot of my friends in Nigerian universities and in extension service and in ADPs, and they have really helped me a lot. So some of the work that I did during that time is impact of climate change on economy, global and regional models, and last but not the least, the ENSO based climate forecasting work that we started with Dr. Anaforum. since after 2008. Between 2010 and 12, I was requested by then U.S. Secretary Hillary Clinton to come and assist the government in Afghanistan because of my experiences in Africa. And so I went back to work for the government between 2010 and 2012. And some of the things I did was the winning the hearts and minds of Afghan, enhancing agricultural production. To enhance agriculture production, we started seed banks for potatoes and wheat. And to do seed banks for potatoes, we built hundreds and hundreds of potato storage structure so that the potatoes would remain viable for planting in month of March. We also established more than 200 farmer cooperatives where farmers came together and did the production and marketing as a group. Every day from central Afghanistan, I used to fly 3 to 4. Those of you know what a C-130 aircraft is. It's a massive aircraft. We used to fill that aircraft with potatoes and export it to other countries. And during that time, I had coined a term from Afghan potatoes as white gold of Bamiyar. These potatoes had a unique taste and people loved it all over the world. In Dubai, there were a lot of market, Europe, in India, and so on and so forth. To support farmers in these things, we build a lot of infrastructure. Of course, roads, schools, potato and wheat pack houses. I distributed 5,000 tractors to Afghan farmers. We started banks, almost 100 banks in Afghanistan, and gave them interest, gave them loan with 2% rate of interest. And I'm very, very proud person today to tell you that this approach that we started in 2010 is still going on in 2025. When these loans are given, we do not take any collateral from the Afghan farmer. But in spite of not having any paperwork, any collateral, there has not been a single defaulter in the last 15 years. Afghans are great people, very honest, very committed. Only they must be convinced that what you are doing is for their good. Since after 2012 Afghanistan, I came back to India. Actually, Prof introduced me as I'm retired. I'm not retired. This is why I still work with 60 countries around the world. And the only reason I came back to India is because when I went to the US in 1980, I had written a letter, a promise letter to myself that I will celebrate my 50th birthday in India. And this is why in 2007, I retired, I resigned from University of Florida and came back to India, only to be called back by US to help in Afghanistan in 2010. So when I finished with in Afghanistan in end of 2012, I came back to India, and because I wanted to come back, I had got prepared with I had bought lot of land in India that I wanted to do into farming and work on the issues like climate change. So I have hundreds and hundreds of acres under medicinal tree planting. I do lot of primary, secondary, and college education. I adopt students, and we also do a lot of skill development. I want to create professionals that would help this growing India into for doing international marketing of agriculture produce, export of agriculture produce. So those are some of my current activities while I'm in India. So I think that's where I really want to stop, and but not before I'm saying thank you. Uh, I think whatever I am today, I owe it to IITA. Many of you may know one Professor Ratan Lal, who was also at IITA and who was awarded World Food Prize. And when everybody else was telling me not to go to IITA, because at that time I had my green card in the US, I had my faculty position in the US. I mean, I had everything in life. And so when I decided to, and then when IITA, Dr. Spencer and uh, and Ken Fisher came to talk to me in Houston, Texas, and we were supposed to have 1 hour meeting, and that meeting lasted for 3 days. At that end of the 3 days meeting, I told myself that if I don't do anything in my life but go and try to solve the problems of Africa, I will be the most happy person in my life. And so I had spoken to Professor Lal at that time also, and he also had told me. And there was another fellow called BT Kang who developed ali farming in Africa. They both told me, Shrikant, we owe everything we have to IIT. So it's your decision whether to stay in the US or come to work to IITA. And I'm very, very happy that I chose to come to IITA. And so I owe a lot to my IITA colleagues. That includes my co-scientist, my students, and my co-workers, my staff, not only in IITA but around everywhere else also. I'm especially thankful to Dr. Anuforum of NIMET, because he before I'm coming on the board to do forecast to seasonal rainfall prediction, NIMET used to do forecasts for south part, central part, northern part at different times. And I convinced Dr. Anuforum that we could do it the entire country wise in one go. And not only that, we could add enormous economic value to this forecast and do it for many different sectors. And he believed in me. So we worked in the first phase until 2010. Then I took a break and worked in Afghanistan. And then I came back and again worked until 2016. So that's where I want to stop. And I really appreciate and thank you all of you for being so patient. And if I could, I would like to answer some questions and clarify things if I had said anything wrong. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. This. All right, thank you, Professor Jatab. That's a 25-year journey delivered in 1 hour. Thank you very much. If there are questions, can you please indicate by raising up your hand digitally to like?
Can you? Am I visible?
No, yes, you are visible. You are visible.
Actually, during the lecture, your face went down. Now you are coming up. We'll be happy to come up better. Yes, yes. We know you are
Okay.
reading. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
No,
I'm a
yes.
professor. When I get talking, I get carried away.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Everybody, raising hand, let me check. No hand is up. Okay, that means that, okay, I think the one hand is up, Professor Dugo. Have you raised it down again?
No. Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Professor Jaktab, thank you very much for this presentation, and all in the house, I thank all of you. You see, you will not know me or recognize me. My own is not question, but comment. In 1993, when I was doing my PhD, that was when you talk about the rainfall, studies in rainfall aspect. That is where I had a dilemma between IITA and University of Ibadan. At that time, Staktai was in charge of indigenous knowledge studies, which Professor Ayade really wanted me to do, and I was supposed to have a scholarship there. And having developed the proposal, I came to you in IITA. You look at the proposal and everything. You said no, that the focus for that period is on rainfall. So you gave me a topic on rainfall to work on the PhD aspect. So I went back to UI. When I got to UI, I was given option. If you want the PhD, study the indigenous knowledge. But if you want job, study the rainfall and go to IITA. So I was in the fix at that time. That is the reason why at the end I said, well, I want the PhD, but not only the job, but the two we are unable to be bridged together. That is the reason why I had to go into that agro-climatological session. So that is why I don't want to make that comment to buttress the fact that your studies were in phases. And as at the time I came in there was on rainfall. I thank you very much. Even as at that, when I was carrying on my PhD, came to meet you severally, and you gave me a lot of very much, and thank all of you in the house.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have very big people in MFS and meteorology industry. Dr. Niforom is here. Maybe you want to greet the presenter. I don't know. Professor Bello is here too, Professor Watershaw. Just one minute before I hand over to the president. Okay. If Dr. Niforom is not here yet. I can hand over to the president to make the closing remark, and then we close. We have spent more than an hour.
Mr. Moderator. Hello, Mr.
Sorry?
Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I saw Mr. Arnold too, Professor Professor Omotosho. These are elders.
Professor Motosha took excuse to leave, according to.
I see.
I think he sent a chat.
Dr. Arnold, I mean, it's good to hear the voice of these good people. Is Dr. Arnold still there? Well, in case they are not, but
I'm here.
So we need to hear your voice, Dr. Arnold. How can you be there and you are keeping quiet? Please, moderator, let's give him 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes, please, Dr. Arnold, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Prof. Sorry, I can't come on video, but I'm sure you're hearing my voice. Yes, I want to thank the Nigerian Meteorological Society for organizing this, and in particular to thank Dr. Jakta. He mentioned severally what he did with NIMET, and incidentally, I was the director of weather forecasting services and climate services when he did the work for the seasonal rainfall prediction. And I want to say that that particular work, because I was involved with this rainfall prediction before it became seasonal prediction, rainfall prediction, it started as far back as that would be 1985, when late Professor Adefolalu started the project. It was Professor Adefolalu, Dr. Noli, myself, and late Adebayo, who started tinkering with rainfall prediction. There were no computers. It was manual averaging of temperatures and rainfall data without belaboring the historical aspects. But I just want to say that Dr. Jaktab's involvement in rainfall prediction made it not only a national product, but things that were impossible initially, like he said in his presentation, because of the time required to do the calculations, we couldn't do the entire country at the same time. We started from the coastal area as rainfalls were coming because we needed some initial data to be able to run the model when the computers were there. And the rainfall prediction, sometimes as we are just finishing the rainfall, the start season has already started where we are supposed to have predicted. So the value added by Dr. Jakta gave us enough lead time to be able to communicate the onset of rainfall to the farmers. And that helped farmers to be able to plant the required crops at the necessary times. And whatever it has come of seasonal rainfall prediction today, other people have added one value or the other to it, but we must give credit to Dr. Jakta that it was his initiative that brought the seasonal rainfall prediction to what it is today and the value that it is adding to the agricultural production in the country. One thing I will ask Dr. Jakta, which we were asking at that time, beyond rainfall prediction targeting agriculture, can't we develop other models where the seasonal prediction will target other sectors of the economy? Because as of now, the seasonal rainfall prediction, we may mention other sectors of the economy, but the core of the targets or focus of the seasonal rainfall prediction now is agriculture. And we have other sectors of the economy. I don't know what the management of NIMET now is thinking about, but I think such good products should be focused on other sectors of the economy beyond the agriculture. Thank you, the moderator, and thank you, the president of Nigerian Meteorological Society, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nadu. I think Dr. Antonio, from former DG, your microphone is on. Maybe you can add voice to it.
He said he has some technical issues. I don't know whether it's okay now.
Oh, okay. All right.
To say he has technical issues. But it's wonderful that you see what Dr. Nadu will have taken away. Can you imagine? Okay. So I think he has spoken so well for Dr. Antonio Nuforum. However, maybe you can go back to the presenter. He may want to comment on the question.
Yes, yes. I think Professor Daksab, you may want to comment on what Dr. Nadu said, especially with respect to modeling in other areas.
Yes, I think, Dr. Anuforum very well knows my position. I think we focused initially on agriculture because that was the putting food on people's table is always the priority. And coincidentally, at around the same time, my very good friend, Dr. Hakin Adesina, my colleagues at IITA, was also the Minister of Agriculture. And so from him, so I think the appeal that Dr. Enodu now is making, we are doing these kind of things for livestock in other countries. We are doing for insurance industry. We are doing so many, we are doing for fisheries. We are doing for so many other industries. The question remains that I think, these kind of efforts require continuity. These kind of things require continuous efforts. And I think if NIMET would take interest, I mean, we would definitely educate NIMET staff through training and other means, and get even involved the intelligentsia in that process. And other sectors, Dr. Anodu, my position. We must not only focus on one thing, but it's like if we only do weights with left hand, only left hand will become strong and the right hand will become weak. We can't do that. We should never do that. But at the end of the day, is the priority of the management and priority of the country that is counted.
Okay, thank you, the presenter. Can I also read Dr. Anuforum's comments that Professor Jaktap actually added immense value to rainfall prediction. So that's his comment. Yeah, it says, in addition, Dr. Jaktap helps NIMET in developing an impressive pool of skilled manpower in climate prediction. That's a good comment to a presenter. Okay, Mr. President, I want to hand over to you because we're...
If I may add just one comment, just one thing.
Okay.
My former colleagues, my students at IITA have I mentioned about only one who works at the International Center. But one of my colleagues is a vice president of a university in the United States. And there are so many others in between.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, there's a question there. It said, what advice could you give a student that's still unsure of what branch of meteorology to venture into?
Well, the life is always full of surprises. So whatever, see, I dreamed about working at IITA 12 years before I started to work. I dreamed about becoming an engineer long before I became an engineer. So I think your focus really should be in what you want to contribute to this world. I don't, I mean, there is nothing like right and wrong. Everything is right as far as I'm concerned. So please be honest what you want to do, and whatever you take up, go at it with full heart. That's the only advice I have always given, and I always give to people.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, I want to thank you so much for a job well done. It's like this should continue forever. But I have 5 takeaways from this webinar, and then some announcements, and then we'll close. What are the 5 takeaways from this webinar? And yes, some people are asking online, can they have, because I was announcing it on our platform, that the LMS platform, that they should please join us. And some said, oh, is it available in video and all this? Yes, it's available. But you don't miss this kind of thing. Number one takeaway that the young ones should listen carefully to and should imbibe, even those who could not attend, should watch this, is career choice and preparation. Now, I see in our guest today that he made intentional approaches, career choice. And I'm glad somebody asked about career choice. But you see, he prepared himself. He finished from IIT and then went to the US to prepare himself. And many of us, we just don't think about the future. We should think, plan, and work towards it rigorously. That is one takeaway that we can learn from his life. Number 2 is mentoring. And when I say mentoring, he was really fortunate to meet people like Montaigne. I was surprised to hear those of us who are old in scientists, we know Montaigne, and Penman, Formula, and all this, we know. So he benefited from these people while here. I'm presently in Florida. I'm Florida State University, just over there. So he benefited. That is, taking care that you don't despise people. The young ones of this in particular should listen carefully. Get mentored. Get mentored. Don't know it too much. Don't know it all. And then secondly, also mentor. He also mentored many others. And some today are appreciating what he has done for them in publication. That's number 2 takeaway. Number 3 is creating network. We need network. I was speaking somewhere in church on Sunday. I said there are some prosperity that is not in terms of dollar and naira or rupee or something. It's network. You are rich when you have the network, when you have the contact. And so he's rich today because of the contact. Rich in Nigeria, rich in the US, rich back home, and so on. And I'm glad that he's saved enough to buy much in Nigeria, back home. Are we listening, Professor Okogwe, and many of us who are retiring in the next 10 years or less? We need to save and buy lands and do things like the doctor is doing now, because he's now into medicinal farming and so on. So that's creating network. Number 4 is making the most of opportunities. He never missed any of our opportunity. He was so hardworking, and he used these opportunities to promote others and to promote himself and to promote West Africa and the whole of Africa through the directorship that he handled. And number 5 is very important, the importance of collaboration. I'm so glad And I listened to him. He said he was coming from the airport. He was going to IITA in Ibadan, but he went to NIMET. Then, of course, was not called NIMET. But in those days, remember, I'm glad Dr. Ono do it online, Dr. Ani Forum and many others. You can see that it was the Nigerian Meteorological Society that organized the program that he went for. It was hosted by the then Nigerian Meteorological Services, by the society. Look at the collaboration. That collaboration was lost along the line. Some of our DGs did not think it is so important to collaborate. Please, let's go back to that. And that's what we're trying to do now. Happily, we know that this year, NIMET is host. I'm happy that the first vice president is there, and will tell the DG, please, we are expecting confirmation official that this year, NIMET is hosting the conference and the AGM. These are the collaborations that we need so that we can enhance. I can see him collaborating. He invited somebody good in mathematics, good in this and good in that. And you don't do it alone. We need this collaboration. And I want to thank you, therefore, for a wonderful job you have done. Next, I want to thank the presenter, the moderator. Thumbs up for Professor Kogwe and his team. They are doing a wonderful job. So in the next one quarter, we have another seminar. So I'm also, we have agricultural meteorology and aviation. We've had in a rainfall, flood, and so on. Please, we need one in the area of synoptic meteorology, synoptic dynamic meteorology. And so Professor Motocho, please help us in this area. The next time also, we should have somebody come to tell us about numerical weather prediction, forecasting, not just immediate, but years to come. We're talking about global, we're talking about AI now, but meteorology have been doing AI for a long time. So you have to mention that. So please, we need that. And finally, please, we are trying to make ourselves strong. I'm happy that many people are registering now in the society. Please, the opportunity is still there now. Register either as associate or full member. We're doing that now. And lastly, we lost a member of a colleague, Professor Mrs. Delonzu. So in the next few days, we are going to the east for the funeral. And I'm happy the Secretary General and somebody else, that's our mother, Professor Olarewaju, is also going to represent us. Please, we want you to know that this is time to come together and show that in meteorology we are one and we are very strong. So on this note, I want to thank you, and we look forward to the next menu from Professor Kogwe. I'm sure it will be as delicious as this. Not so? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll reach out to many other people. Professor Abiodun in South Africa, Professor Motosho, like you have mentioned, and Dr. Nodu that is here, will be preparing to also host, be a speaker on one of our webinars. I'm glad to announce today that we are fluctuating between 36, 37, and 38 persons that attended. And that's that log on. There are some people that are on groups, with one laptop, one system. So we're improving. Thank you very much. I think.
Yes. We'll make sure many more watch online. We're going to put the link here. They're going to watch it. In fact, we can make it a condition that if you are not watching our series, you cannot be given some a particular thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And Professor Bello was here. Professor Jaktan, it's interesting that you know this. Professor Bello was here. Professor Motosho was here. And many others whom you had asked about, only that they have exited by now. So thank you for honoring our invitation. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I think we are closing at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Sas.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Jakta. Thanks for a beautiful lecture. And,
Hi, Mr. Enodu. Well, Dr. Enodu, I have to get over that change now.
It's okay. Important thing that Enodu appears there.
I mean,
Be preparing. We are going to catch you this recently in this time.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have that bad habits for for so long now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine from 89 to 25? That's 25 plus 11, 36
Yeah.
years.
It's true.